Thanks everybody for being here. Fired up for this. I want obviously just jump into this right now. For those of you who don't
Hmm.
know me, I'm Paul Hitchcock. I'm the founder and president of Giant Jacks Media. We're a firm here in Southern California that helps others to grow and nurture their businesses. And this is solopreneurs, business coaches, Vistage chairs, small business owners, medium-sized businesses. So you can check me out, Giant Jacks Media. I'll put my link up in the chat later. Eric and I have been doing a lot together. This is a great topic. This is all about AI, and Eric is the right guy to be talking to. He's a Vistage speaker, very busy, traveling the country, speaking to Vistage everywhere. He's also a fractional
AI.
AI, doing all
AI.
things AI for companies, and yeah, working with companies all over the country and getting in there. And AI is not the only thing, Eric, you're focused on. I'm going to let you kind of give a little bit about your
Yeah.
background. We jump in here, but we're going to be talking about, where is AI right now, and then Eric getting into some case, studies,
Hmm.
examples of how businesses are using AI. So let's just jump into it. Where are we with the landscape of AI right now?
Well, thanks, Paul, and thank you for the introduction. And we're, I think that really the big thing is this is my big takeaway from AI, from a big picture view, is this is an exciting time to be alive.
Yeah.
Just
Yep.
because there's so much opportunity and so much innovation is going to take place over the next few years and has taken place already, but we're really on the very cusp of that. And normally I have my background as the tidal wave. I don't know how I ended up with the blur, but I have the tsunami is my background, and I'll see if I can fix that in a minute. But so, it's where you are kind of in that wave becomes important. Like if you're going to be like way out in front of it, you might get crushed by it. If you're way behind it, you might get left behind, like the wave
Yep.
just goes past you. So kind of where you are riding that wave is a big deal. And that's, where you get into strategy, right? How are we positioning ourselves, from a big picture point of view? So but
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
take is it's really exciting.
Yeah, no, and well said. And it's interesting because you and I have talked a lot about AI and where businesses are, and we're going to get into it here. And it's my own businesses. My own experiences is what you said is, everyone got introduced to AI when ChatGPT rolled out,
Hmm.
and then started really discovering all the other things that are going on. There's so much happening with AI right now. And for myself, you know,
Hmm.
ebooks are a big thing, for example, and I'm trying to, want to get more and more ebooks out there for a lot of different reasons. And so I'm diving in right now to the AI tools that can help me write, ebooks and do it, efficiently, quickly, and with the right content, and looking at some really cool programs
Yeah.
that can do that. And there's a lot of them. So just so I
Yep.
there's a lot to know. There's a lot to know.
Yep. There is. And I think, the big takeaway is that, or the big aspect of this is that there isn't any area of business that isn't going to be affected, some more dramatically than others, but every area is going to be affected by AI. From a very foundational level, the way that we work, the way that people work is going to change all across the board, from HR to operations to sales and marketing for sure. Really everything, compliance, just it's just a wealth of opportunity for a business owner to say, how can I move my business forward? And also, how can I differentiate myself from my competitor?
Yep, yep.
um, because we all have access to the tools that are generally available out there, but it's who organizes that in the best fashion for their business and, really makes a unique mark. Like everybody's going to be able to use ChatGPT and go and type something, but what do you do with that?
Yeah.
How do you integrate that into your business? And that becomes a big deal. But just so I can give the participants, and I definitely want to hear from the participants as we go along,
Yep.
having them interact and ask questions. I've got a few slides that I am going to share, but I really would like to have this be an interactive component. We can take some questions and talk some things through. I think that's going to be worthwhile. But my background is technology. I've been in technology for about I don't know, 35 years, something like that, a long time.
Yep.
And as a fractional AI officer, I get to leverage that knowledge and being in business. So in technology, in the technology business, has really given me a unique way to look at things from a business standpoint and a technologist standpoint. And that's been one of my capabilities all along, is to kind of bridge that gap. So if you're an executive in a company or a business owner with a business, sometimes, people can talk technically and it just goes over your head. It's just
Hmm.
like, I'm not
Hmm.
hearing that, it's not getting in, and you don't really see the practical application of that and how it all ties together. So that's been one of my secret sauce things going along, is doing that, tying
Yep.
things together.
Yeah, and as we get into the examples and AI and so forth with businesses, so Eric, are you seeing that AI is there's a lot for the solopreneur and the small team, but also for the bigger business, it just runs the gamut with who can benefit from AI.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, really, I mean, every organization, doesn't matter your size, from a solopreneur all the way up to, the Fortune 50 companies are certainly leveraging it. And it's a
Yep.
different game. Like I work a lot in the mid-size space, mid-size companies. So, it might have 20 to 100, 200 people, and they have a lot of the same needs as a Fortune 500 company, but not necessarily the resources.
Hmm.
There's not departments for everything. So AI, I think, is going to make the one of the biggest impacts in that space, is that mid-size space, because you're going to really be able to leverage technology in a way that hasn't been possible before. Not that everybody can't do it, but I think there's a big bang for the buck in that mid-size space.
Yeah, and that brings it home for me because this law firm, one of the companies I'm building out is a law firm, as
Mhm.
you know, and falls into that mid-size space category. We can't embrace AI fast enough over there. I mean, just trying to figure out, okay, what can we be doing? What should we be doing? How can we leverage it to beat our competitors? We're an asset protection, estate planning, business planning firm,
Mhm.
and a lot of firms out there in our space. And so it's just, we're all over it and see the advantages of doing it and already rolling out a lot of things. So, Eric, so as we get into this, first of all, I want to see, how do you approach a business for
Mhm.
the first time when they're wanting to understand AI? And then can we get into some examples of how businesses are using AI?
Sure. So, every time I talk to an organization and people in the organization about that, we're always like, you want to have the big picture, but you also want to get some quick wins. So,
Yep,
or
yep.
at least a quick win. Like, what can we do? And I'll give you an example. So, there's a company called Klarna. They've been in the news recently for really embracing chatbots in their business. Now, this is a global company. It's a little bit bigger company, but they jumped on the board early for customer service with the chatbot, and the chatbot was just as good at doing customer service as people were, and they ended up automating two-thirds of their customer service function. And I think there's a lot of room for that. I can think of one of my clients that has a big customer service function that is highly detailed, very difficult to do, and it's really a perfect application for AI, because it's good at analyzing a bunch of information that it's hard for us to go and retrieve that as people, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, that's like kind of like almost you start there, but it may not be that your business or any particular business that's the best place to go. There could be some other predictive analytics or something else. So you end up having to get into this prioritization stage. Like what is the most important thing that's going to move the business to the objective that we want to get to?
yep,
So if you know where you want to get to, what's going to move the needle the most? Maybe it is a chatbot, but also maybe it's some type of embedded AI that's going to give you some information about your data in the company or even about the customer. So that becomes a weighting thing. You have to really take and use some analytics. And the interesting thing is you can use AI to help you determine what to focus on first with AI.
yeah,
So
right,
is
right,
that a
right.
little like that's getting a little out there? But yeah, because you can put some data in and say, well, what does this look like?
Hmm.
Where's the best path for us to take? And people decide that too, because you end up like what I like to do is work when there's teams. I have everybody vote on what they think, the most important criteria that is going to move the company forward is.
Yeah.
And then when you start to analyze those subjective, thought processes, that becomes data because, well, these
Mhm.
people think we should go this way. And so now you have to kind of hash that out as a team. And that's a great process because it really gives you a lot of clarity.
Yeah, the chatbot thing is interesting because those have come a long way over the years. And so, Eric, when you're doing, for instance, customer service questions, great use for that chatbot. I'm training one now for my business, but uh, when you're doing it at that level, so you got a mid-size or bigger business, is it someone feeding information into the chatbot, identifying what are the most common areas that people are asking questions about or need help with? I mean, what are the mechanics of setting up
Yeah.
that chatbot?
That's a great question. And a lot of it comes down to what is the objective of the chatbot. So you end up, just like you have people in an organization that specialize in something, you can actually train a chatbot to specialize. Well, let's just give an example that is a fairly common one. It's an AI booking chatbot. So it books meetings
Hmm.
for account executives. So that is typically the area that an SDR, a sales development representative, works in, booking meetings for the account executive.
Yeah.
The chatbot's more than capable of doing that via email, via text message, in social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, those types of things in a conversational manner. And the key way to get those bots to function properly is to give them objectives. So their objective in a given stage is, what is your name? Or where do you live? Or what industry are you in? And the chatbot can just go through a list of objectives that are really qualifying a prospect. And then once the person has qualified themselves in conversation with the chatbot can go into booking mode where then they book an appointment. Again, strictly with conversation, no links or anything like that. Booking a meeting, getting the email set up, and you're done. And that
Yeah.
is a very powerful aspect of a chatbot.
Yeah, and when I say it's come a long way, because those chatbots, it used to be that people would sniff out right away that it was a bot
Hmm.
and the bot would screw it up. And if you do that when you're trying to book somebody, game is over, right? I mean, it's good night, Irene. People are going to get frustrated and forget it. This is a bot, but it's no longer that way.
Yeah, and I think also society in general is coming to expect that you're going to be working with AI.
That's true.
And if you give it the information that it needs, you're going to get to the place you want to be. But I can tell you that in my sales model, in what I do in my business, I have a very defined, like 5 or 6 step process that I go through for qualifying. And the bot is very good at that conversational, and you can teach it. So if you see a conversation, like I can go through and look at the conversations, and if one doesn't look quite right, I can rewrite some training for that, and either train it out or train it in, as the case may be.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Well, it's
yeah.
interesting because I've been, just in the last week and a half, been, having to get get things done in my personal and business life with different agencies and associations. All of them have chat bots.
Yeah.
You call them up and they are very good. So,
Yep.
and
Yep.
you start thinking about all the applications you can use that scenario for. So when you get into bigger, well, let's start with uh, the solopreneurs. I mean, you and I are in contact with a lot of Vistage shares, for example, or business
Mhm.
coaches and so forth. I'm just curious there, uh, how do you see those folks using AI? What could they be doing?
Well, I mean, the scenario is the same, and I think that when I start talking about solopreneurs, I'm usually looking at what's going to improve your personal productivity, because a bulk of your time is spent in either writing or preparing or planning or something like that in the business, or producing your product, if as the case may be. For instance, if you're a podcaster these days, what a great world to live in. I mean, AI can help write your podcast themes and write your conversation, a lot of those things. But really, from a writing standpoint, is usually where I would start with most solopreneurs. getting the AI tools embedded in your writing. Now, for instance, I use Grammarly, and Grammarly, every app that I am in, pretty much every app, it is helping me write in real time. So I write a sentence or a paragraph, it analyzes it, and it says, well, consider writing it this way. And I click accept or dismiss. And so I don't have to write a whole document and then feed it into ChatGPT and
Yeah.
get results back. So it's extemporaneous. So I'm really that helps me a lot. As you know, I'm a solopreneur because I have a fractional AI
Yeah.
practice. So that's what I do. That's my go-to tool every moment because I'm always writing. But that doesn't mean you can't have long form content, which you were talking about the ebooks. So you would have ChatGPT or a tool that lays over on top of ChatGPT that helps you with those writings. And those are longer format, maybe they're complete outlines or something like that. So usually I start with writing for solopreneurs because content, you're having to create content,
Can
whatever
Grammarly
that
do an
is.
ebook?
Grammarly could do an ebook if you when so I use Grammarly's Go function mostly, okay? And the Go is the part that's in line, okay?
Yeah.
So it's designed for short snippets. It can do a document, but that's designed for small pieces. But they also have the piece where you log in and create a full-blown document, and it will help you writing that. I wouldn't call that the best tool for that. I think there's other tools for ebooks. You can use ChatGPT on your own. The prompting becomes really important when you
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So typically with ChatGPT and prompting, you have to give me an outline for a for an ebook, and it will give you an outline. And then you have to walk it through each of those sections or what do you call it? Chapters and
Chapter.
say, write this chapter and focus on this and this and this. And then it will write that chapter. And so you have to do them one at a time. You can't just say, write me an ebook on podcasting with AI. Like
Yeah.
it's giving it can do it, but you're not going to like the results.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you walk it through it, and it gets a little complicated because as you start to edit, how do you consolidate all that back together? And that's
Hmm.
where those AI tools that go on top of ChatGPT. I think there's one called Evergreen, and there's several that do the
Yeah.
longer format books. So yeah, that's kind of where I start there with the writing.
Yeah. And I've thought about Vistage chairs or business coaches or solopreneurs too when um they're having group meetings and maybe they want to, record, have AI in the room, record it, summarize it, send it out afterwards,
Sure.
those sort of things, and even have a personality, an AI personality, laptop open with AI right there, processing an issue and so forth. I mean, that can happen,
Yeah.
right?
In real time, yeah. And you mentioned Vistage, and I've done lots of Vistage meetings, and I'll literally sit right in the meeting and we'll take a topic that comes up and I'll put that right into ChatGPT and we'll start to work with the prompts on that and what the results are. For instance, sometimes the questions are, well, how do I deal with a certain HR issue? Or I've got a client that's asking for this. How do I deal with that? And the responses that you get are generally spot on for what you're trying to address. So there's so many areas. You just look at everything that comes up in a business day, whether it's a problem or an opportunity, right? Essentially the same
Right.
thing, but opportunities to be like, hey, I've got this client. How can I best communicate with that person? And you let ChatGPT go out and do the research on the company and give you a whole, profile
Yeah. Yeah.
ready to go, right? And, because that information is public, right? People have their LinkedIn profile, so ChatGPT can see where they've worked and the work that they've done, maybe some of their writings, and it can pull together a pretty amazing prep sheet. Uh, let's call it a stand-up for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
meeting. So you
Yeah.
have it do a stand-up for the meeting, and this is all just prompting, right? So all the tools that are coming out are just very specific prompts. They do very specific things, and there's value in that because it saves you time. Even though you're saving a lot of time with ChatGPT, those tools even save you more time.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Can a tool like ChatGPT or another tool create a dossier on somebody? If you said, hey, create a whatever the language you would use, dossier or something on this person, It will create that.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd use the dossier sounds a little what do you call it?
CIA-ish.
Yeah, like, but you could definitely create a profile, right? So you'd have a profile of this person in business, or maybe it's even a profile of this person in their personal life, because some things are exposed. If your Instagram profile is public or your Facebook
Yeah.
profile is public, the AI can go in and look at that, say, well, so I like to sail. So I think if that was done on me, the system would know Eric likes to sail, right? And he's going to, so that would be maybe a touch point if you were
Yeah.
selling to me. Hey, I see you like to sail. I noticed you like to sail. What part of it do you like? And then that kicks off a conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
lots of power there. Yep.
Interesting. So then as you get into the bigger businesses, Eric,
Mhm.
what are you seeing there and what areas of the company seem to be the ones most suited for AI or like what do you see at a bigger level?
Yeah, again, every area of business. So you get into bigger companies, you've got all these departments. So I've got a rapidly growing construction company. And so there's pre-construction, there's construction, there's post-construction, there's HR, there's safety, there's compliance, there's all these different areas. Like a growing construction company needs people. They need supers and PMs and people in the field and estimators and bidder and salespeople. So if you just took HR from sourcing all the way through onboarding training, getting them functional in their role is AI is tailor made for all of those.
Hmm.
Going out, finding good candidates, communicating with them, negotiating, getting them comfortable with the culture of the organization because you can create training uh, programs with AI that are easy to create. As a matter of fact, I have a quick one I can show you that I created when we get a second here, and then all the way through onboarding and the technical aspects of
Yeah.
being an employee. How do I get my health insurance? Have a chat bot for HR, for instance.
Yep.
How do I track my time off? All those things. And that's just one, sliver of the business.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
you take that into all the different areas and areas we can't even imagine yet what we could do. If we could do something, what would we do with it in this business if we had
Yeah.
such and such a capability?
Yeah. Do you want to
So
show a couple things? You said you
yeah,
mentioned
let's
it. Yeah.
take a look at that. I've got a see how I get over to present here. Then I'm just going to scooch through some of these. This is Jenny, and how do I make? Let me see if you can hear her. Can you hear Jenny?
No, no.
Okay, so how do I make her show up audio? That's a good question. I have a trick for this. I'm down here really quick.
Yeah, when you share the screen, there's a toggle you can share audio.
Advanced sharing. Mm, I've got a trick. I'm going to use a little just a quickie here. Audio on speaker, and I'm just going to put my microphone up there.
I still can't hear
Couldn't hear it?
it. No.
Hmm. All right. Well, this is Jenny. I created her in about 10 minutes. If I was a little more fluent let me stop sharing for a second. Layouts and options, advanced. Computer audio. Yes. Yes, I found it. See if she works now.
Thank you,
Can
Eric.
you hear her?
Yeah.
Artificial
There we
intelligence,
go.
an umbrella
So I
term,
made
is a
her in
field
about
of
10
computer
minutes.
science that
I'll
develops
get her
Yeah, but we
intelligent
picture
can't
up
see
systems
there.
her.
that can
Oh,
perform
you can't see
tasks
her.
that
You want to
typically
share yet?
All
require
right.
human.
Hold on. I'm going to reshare.
There she is.
And you can hear her?
No.
Ah, I thought I had it.
Oh, yeah. So, okay. So
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I had advanced computer audio basic. Huh. I don't know why that's not allowing me to do both. Oh, that's too bad. All right.
So this woman, so you created her.
Yeah, so the way this works, let me explain how this works. And I can just let her play while we're doing it. She's what do you call it? An avatar that I created in Colossian Creator. You can see it up in the corner
Yeah.
here. And she is was created with simply I'm trying to think of the way to word it, a ChatGPT prompt that I pasted in, and uh, it was just text. So she is completely text driven. And I think I can get it if I get up here.
Where's the image? So where did the image come from? It just created the image of her?
See her now? Hear her now?
No, it just created the image of her.
It's weird that you can't hear her because I've got my microphone right there. But anyway, she has the beautiful thing about this type of a situation is I can create a learning with just text and the video, and then when I need to change it, all I do is alter the text.
Okay.
So I don't have to re-record the entire video. And this is a little older one now. She's about I did her about 2 or 3 months ago. And now you can take your own image and your own voice, and the AI will learn your voice after speaking for about 15 or 20 seconds, and it'll put you up there giving the presentation. Now, obviously, people will know it's AI, but it's still a personable thing. It's
Right.
still a relatable thing, and it's quick to generate because literally all you do is paste in your content as text, and it starts speaking it.
So how would
And
you
that
use this? What's the application for this, for example, for
yeah,
businesses?
yeah, a couple of different ways. I mean, the big one that I see is in learning and development for the organization. So when you're onboarding a new person, how do I show them the ropes without spending, an hour with them telling them every little thing? So I can have something like this, which is video combined with the imagery, and now I've got a training platform. I
Okay.
can also use it for FAQs on the website. I could make an FAQ um, type of thing where there are short little snippets of this type of thing. So you have a question, how do I, log in? Just like simple. But it could be for literally anything. And because you can easily combine that with imagery, that becomes a powerful tool that's easy to edit. That's the big thing. Like you can record one of these on your own, but when you flub up and then you have to re-record it, and then the content changes 2 months later, this is so much easier
Hmm.
and quick to market. Like you can put it out there like that. So
Yeah,
that
interesting.
part of it is pretty powerful. So just really, really cool tools. These are also used in sales development. So you have interactive versions of this that would be like portraying themselves to be a customer, and then the chat GPT is conversing with you, but with the imagery of a person there. So you're
Yeah.
actually having that conversation, and those tools will actually measure your effectiveness at, interestingly, meeting objectives,
Oh,
which the AI is very good at determining whether you have done or not.
right.
Or it's also very good at meeting the objectives because it doesn't forget. Like it
Right.
always remembers, I need to meet this objective. I'm not getting off track.
Hmm.
So,
Exactly.
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, there are lots of uses for this type of avatar situation.
And then, and what about operational stuff with bigger companies? You'd mentioned in the past the construction company, and there's some interesting things going on there about in that category.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I mean, you start to look at like the things you can do. So, in bigger businesses, you have disparate applications, okay? And they're generally like you've got Salesforce or HubSpot or your accounting system and all these different apps, maybe your people management system. They don't talk with each other very well. They don't talk with each other at all, really, unless you have APIs set up for those systems to communicate. But then how do you display that information? And this is where AI I see being the front end for all of the applications that are in a business. So you can build this front end dashboard that I can see all of the aspects of my business and converse with it in natural language, which just makes the business so much easier to run. Like
Yeah.
I can go in and see, well, show me the top 20 deals that we have in our pipeline right now and who is the account executive for them. And it will just pull that up and give it to
Hmm.
you in a tabular format or whatever. The AI is very good at that. And then what you do with that information is obviously where the, what do you call it? Human context part comes in.
Right.
Hey, I see these 20 deals and I know Roger, maybe he's not that good at, closing these and maybe I could come in and help because he's got a 20 million deal, $20 million deal in the pipeline. So
Right.
I'll reach out to him and see what his needs are. And, maybe you wouldn't necessarily seen that just by looking at a tabular report or something like that.
Hmm.
So yeah, lots of power there.
Well, and I've got some questions. So
Hmm.
people emailed some questions in, and
Sure.
anybody that wants to throw up a question in there, please do so. But
Hmm.
a question here is on privacy, especially with firms like law firms or others. What is the deal with privacy? How do you guard your privacy when you're letting AI come in there and look at your systems and internal apps and so forth?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the big thing I tell people right now with ChatGPT is that anything you enter in the ChatGPT public prompt, that one where you log in and type something in or can upload a document, that is all used to train the ChatGPT system. So your information is becoming part of the ChatGPT system. That doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be identifiable by somebody, but it is being used to train it. And the way you avoid that is by using the API and an application that is outside of that. So you can still use ChatGPT, but you use the ChatGPT API and you have a buffer between you. Anything that goes into the API is not used to program the ChatGPT model. So
Okay.
that's like the most basic thing right there. Then after that, you really have to come up with these privacy terms of use compliance. They're just starting to write laws about what AI can do, which is no different than data. It's just about you have data, what you can do with that data.
Right.
So, but when you put when you, like you mentioned, the profile or the nefarious term dossier on
Yes.
somebody, that's public information. And, once your information is out there, we don't have a lot of privacy once we put it online. It's hard to go back and get it out, right?
Yeah.
Especially once, so like Google, you can go to Google and say, I want you to remove this content about me from your searches. It doesn't remove it from online, but you can remove it from the searches. But once ChatGPT has ingested that information, which it does all the time, it's on the internet, you can't get it out. Like
Hmm.
it's because it's a black box. It's not like tables and rows and we're going to remove John Smith. You can't. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
in there.
It's in there.
So, businesses have to, come up with a policy that is workable, that, people feel comfortable with. And, but I think the age of general privacy on a personal basis is just about over. I mean, if you're online and active, it's a public, anything you say in public or in an email for that matter,
You're out there.
you're out there. Well, you think about it in a business. Let's say I'm using AI to scan all the emails for compliance purposes
Right.
in a financial company, right? So we're scanning, this is part of your job, uh, what do you call it, handbook, that we read all the emails. And so everything that's in those emails is now not private. And
Hmm.
it's because for compliance purposes, you can't say, I'm in a financial company, I'm promising you X, because you can't promise X. That doesn't happen.
Right.
So you have that, and everybody just needs to be aware, awareness upfront. This is the way we're using our systems. This is how we're collecting the data. Um, that type of thing, I think, is really the vital piece.
Yeah, love it. And I want to
Hmm.
ask this before we were hitting a ceiling here on time
Hmm.
wise, but this
Yep.
question is on that. I'll paraphrase here, but do you
Uh-huh.
need to have somebody at the company who is the advocate for AI? You know, like who is that person at the company in order to get things going, right? I mean, how do you find that situation?
I think the most important thing when you talk about that term is that somebody owns the initiative.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's not the CEO or the business owner, then somebody in the organization has to own the AI initiative as a broad spectrum thing. So, like as a fractional AI officer, I work with all the different department leaders. So you've got HR and finance and operations and sales and marketing. So you need somebody that's not above those, but cross-functional with those, so that you don't have the IT person that is mostly concerned about keeping the systems running, trying to get all of those departments operating properly. That would be
Yep.
difficult, right? Because
Yep.
it's a big nut to crack. Do keep all the systems running and do everybody else's work.
Yep.
So that's what I say is get somebody that owns that.
What
And
about yeah, question coming
we just
in.
see a question there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, from Bill. Great. Is there a manual for implementing AI, a walk before you run piece that you have, or what do you say to that?
I'm gonna I'll answer that question by telling you what my process is. Okay. And I think process is very important for implementing AI. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to discover and document how work is done in the company. So once you have a discovery and documentation of what is, now you can do a diagnosis. And these are all deltas. So diagnose, you can look where are the opportunities, and you can start to rank order what those might be for impact on reaching the objective. And then you start to design and to deliver those tools that would make an impact, but in as small a way as possible. So minimum viable product is what I call that. So we want to use, maybe it's an application that's off the street, but we want to see if it works in our company. So we'll try it with 3 or 4 or 5 people before we deploy it to 25 or
Yeah,
50, because
yeah,
we want to find out what the gotchas are. We don't want to put it out to 50 people and they say, well, really, and then you get all the feedback and it's like too much feedback.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Test it, deploy it, see what you get. And then the last one is dashboard, which is get your KPIs, your OKRs, or what do you want to call them these days, but the metrics on whether you're being effective or not. And I kind of start with the dashboard and it ends up being filled out at the end.
yeah.
So, and those are usually objective based. So
You,
that's my manual, if you will.
is that codified anywhere? Is that on
I
a
do,
site you
yeah. It
have, or?
actually on ericlangley.net. It's like, how does this work? It's one of the links. How does this work? And I talk about all those steps right there. And you could go do them on your own.
So
You
that's
don't need me
great.
to do it. Yeah.
So ericlangley.net, you go
Hmm.
there, and how does it work? There's a
Yeah. How this
tab.
work? How does it work? There's 4 or 5 questions. How does it work? What's involved? And one of those has all the deltas in there. And I tell my whole process right on the web
Okay,
page
that's
there.
great. That's great.
Yep.
Uh, Excellent. Okay. Well, listen, this is great. I mean, I know we could
Yeah.
keep going
We could keep
forever.
going.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
could go. We could
Yeah,
go.
I figure these are wet your whistle, get some sense of where AI is. I love doing these things. Thank you for doing this, Eric. And I'm going to
Yep.
send out the replay to everybody that signed up and attended.
Hmm.
So appreciate it very much. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Eric.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay.